Hey mamas, welcome to this class about overstimulation. That is part of the Come Home to Yourself Masterclass series this week. That is really just like pouring out of me. I have so many pages of notes here. I have so much that I could share about overstimulation and everything that's connected to it, but I'm really going to try and keep it really simple and actionable for you, because I know if you're joining this class, it's probably because your nervous system is under a little bit of pressure. So I'm going to first invite you to just do a bit of what we therapists like to call a somatic attunement. What this means is that you're just going to take a moment to actually reconnect with your body and what's really going on there. Not what we want to be going on or our ideas about it, but our actual physical sensations, like our breath, places of tension or charge, energy that wants to move, that might be a little stuck. And I like to do this personally by first off just maybe closing my eyes or softening my gaze and connecting in with my breath. Noticing where it's going, where it feels spacious, where it feels tight. Is it going into my chest, my belly, my pelvis, my back? Oh, I notice there's something going on in my shoulders here. My shoulders are really rolled forward. So just giving those a little invitation to move back and away from my ears if they're ready to. I like to also put my hands on my body in places that feel good or comforting. And you can massage if you want, but you can also just offer some presence, some soothing presence. As mamas, our bodies work so hard all the time, and they offer so much to so many other people. And so I find on days like today, I was up a lot of the night with this full moon, with myself, with my boy, and having crazy dreams. And so my nervous system's needed a bit more support. My body's needing a bit more support today than often it does. I don't feel quite as invincible as I usually do, but I'm like, oh yeah, it feels really good just to give a bit of gentle pressure on my chest here. And really the invitation is to just see if you can follow just what feels good, and if you feels good, I'll do that a bit more, and then explore variations on it, and just giving ourselves those moments, even if it's just for a minute or two, of coming back to some really nice sensations that it's really easy to enjoy in our body. Coming back to a sense of pleasure in our own bodies can do absolute wonders for your nervous system and wonders for your day. And I recorded a video of myself this morning preparing for this class by just being outside and giving myself a good 2-minute dynamic stretch, and little things like that you can really do anywhere. You can do even holding a baby. You can do with a toddler on you. You can you don't have to get away. You don't have to have a massive break, but those regular moments of reconnection with yourself throughout the day can make a really, really massive difference to overstimulation. And I'm going to share a little bit more about why as now I start to get into some of the teaching and the theory for today. So here's the dilemma that I see a lot of mamas in with overstimulation. We think that it's caused by the noise, the mess, the lack of personal space, the chaos. And in some ways it is. Like, those things definitely can create pressure in our nervous system, but it's not actually those things. You can experience those things without going into overstimulation. Once you've understood how your system works, how your body works, and have also unwound some tension. Because really overstimulation in a way is what I would call like a unresolved tension between you and your environment. So there's a response, a reaction, an internal reaction going on, and that is what causes this feeling of tension, of bracing, of like too much, of like wanting to escape, feeling trapped. These are actually caused a lot by this, our response, our interpretation, our thinking about what's going on. So I know that some mornings I can walk down my stairs from my sleeping loft and see a mess of like toys and dishes and like everything everywhere, and I can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that was such a good day yesterday. And it gives me this sense of real pleasure and satisfaction and relaxation, because I'm like, yeah, that was such an epic day. We were having so much fun and we didn't have time to clean up. Like, we just had so much fun all day and then went to bed like and had a great sleep. Other mornings I can walk down and be like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with this all again. Like, and so I know that it's my thinking about it that actually turns something from like into like heaven or hell in some ways. And so when we can start to look at what our grievance are, what are those irritants actually in our environment? What is it that's going on? I know for a lot of mums, it's their kids fighting. It's like one of the things that they find like most difficult. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's get curious about that. Let's get curious about why that is like registering in your nervous system as something that's going on that's not good. And sometimes it comes back to like a childhood experience of being picked on. And so they're projecting the past onto that experience. And so it's our negative judgment that like is the first layer of kind of what happens there. But that layer can actually be quite hard to work on if your nervous system and your body is just like completely chocker full of tension. So the first layer that I encourage the mamas I work with to work on, and the first layer I would work with on myself as well, is the body layer, the somatic layer. And what's happening in response, so there's the stimulus, the thing that doesn't feel good, there's a judgment that happens in your system, and then that causes a bodily reaction which initially will be tensing. This is not just like happening in your mind or anything like that. Like, this is actually happening in your body. That's why things start to feel so tight and you feel like you've got no space inside, is because your both your muscles and your fascia and the energy that's within them starts to be clenched to actually physically brace against what's happening, as if like what you would do if there was someone like flying towards you and you had to like brace to protect yourself. So your musculature and your connective tissue is all bracing, and that's really what starts to create this like feeling inside. We stop breathing, or we breathe just very shallowly up here, And all of that is what actually creates the physical sensation of being trapped in that moment. And then what we do is we either try and just like go with it, and we and keep going, or we tune out. We reach for our phones. We or a snack, or we just kind of become like not there in some ways, in some kind of form of mild dissociation. Or we go into hyper control mode and really try and stop whatever the irritant is. So we clean aggressively. We put really like harsh boundaries on our children with particular kinds of behavior that might not be harming them, but they're like really, really irritating us. And I know with my son, sometimes I'm way more irritated than others by particular things that he does. And so one of the things that I do is I let him know, like, hey, I'm feeling a bit more sensitive today, like I just have a bit less of a buffer. So if I would really appreciate it if you like turn down the volume on that thing, or were a bit more gentle with me. And I'll have to give him like a lot of reminders, but I really want to be bringing him up to be someone that is aware of what's going on around him, and has a sense of care and attunement to how different people experience things differently at different times, just like he does. So I really take the time to like make allowances for myself on days like today where my buffer is thinner, and ask him to tone things down a bit if I need. But on other days, all of that is really fun. So it's about realizing that like the stimulus, the impact of the stimulus and on you, and I can do that now because I've done the work of unwinding like a lot of tension in my body, and so I'm really in touch with what's going on in the present moment. But when we have been out of touch with ourselves for a long time, then we need to do like a lot more physical unwinding first. And that will do huge things to take us out of exhaustion, out of reactivity, out of all those kind of like states that we really don't like to be in for ourselves and for our loved ones. So I'm quite pregnant now, which means I'm not doing such aggressive movements as I used to. But there are a few ways to like unwind and get your body back, which I can share with you now. So one is the gentlest one, which I tend to be using these days a lot. And just use like the more use your level of attunement to yourself to sense like exactly which one works for you. The more physical effort you put in, the more energy you'll move, because what's happened with these chronic tensions is it's holding, and this is depleting you in two ways. One, it takes a lot of energy actually to like hold muscle and connective tissue like tight like that, and the tightness is basically your body saying like, I don't want to feel this, so I'm not going to let this move. It's usually an emotion that's actually stuck, and so we're using a lot of our energy to keep this clenched so that we don't have to feel this thing. And then it's so clenched that not much energy flow can get through either. So we end up exhausted and depleted like from two different ways at once. So the way that we start to reverse that and teach our body that actually it's okay to to relax. It's okay to feel these feelings. It's okay to feel our aliveness. Is that we use, like in all somatics, we use movement, we use breath, and we use sound. So it can be the exercises that I tell you, but it could also be going for a workout. It could be amazing sex. There's as long as it contains an activation of breath, movement, and sound, then it's going to do wonders for you. So we can go from the most gentle, which is what I was doing a lot today, which is just really following your pleasure in stretching out all those kinky and clenched parts of you. Make sure you're breathing. Unlock your knees. There are 2 key ways that we start to, like the handbrakes on our energy flow in our body. And one of them is our knees. Like if we lock our knees, you'll stop feeling. And if you constrain your breathing, you will stop feeling. So we want to make spaces in our days where we can actually let our feelings move and let our energy move. And so this can be like the most gentle way, or once you start getting a little more comfortable with a little bit more energetic activation, then we can start moving into more of a shake. So I like to start by banging my heels on the floor, because this starts activating some of these really big muscles and joints that can store a lot of clenching. And your pelvis and hips are always really related to your shoulders and your neck. So if you release one, it starts to release the other, and it starts to get your energy moving again. It goes up the back of your body and then down the front of your body. And that's really the key to having a ton of energy and a ton of nervous system capacity in your life, is to retrain your system to not clench. And then you can just stay relaxed with so much more. I had a really amazing moment with my son the other day, so a little parenthesis, his exercises. He started school in the last 2 weeks, and it's a really big thing for him. He's super sensitive. He's trying to figure out who his friends are. He's in a totally new environment. And a couple of days ago, he did his first full day at school, not getting picked up early. And he was really proud. But then as we were getting closer to the car, he just absolutely burst into tears. He's like, "Mama, I need to go home. We need to go home." And he was sitting in the car and just crying his life out, just these huge sobs going through his body, huge sobs. And he cried like that for about 5 minutes before then starting to make funny faces in the mirror and having a really good giggle. And after that, he was it was like a full nervous system reset. He'd been taking on all this stress and tension and holding himself so tightly to get through that day, which we all need to do sometimes. We all need to hold things together, and he'd done such an amazing job of that. But then he also did such an amazing job as soon as he was with me and in a semi-private space. He just let it all go, and 5 minutes later he was ready for a snack, and then 5 minutes after that he was ready to get on and do his day and do more awesome stuff. He didn't need to go home and rest. He didn't need to come to a quiet place or anything like that. He actually just needed to release that tension, and then he was really good to go for another few hours with us doing some quite busy things. And to me, that was the epitome of how our nervous system is really designed to work. So we take on stress, and then we but we don't hang on to it. This is the thing we need to learn, is to not hold on to our stress, but to then let it go, and then move on with our energy and enthusiasm still intact. So these exercises are kind of like the grown-up versions of doing that. Also, because we are in a pretty emotionally phobic culture, so most of us growing up, we didn't grow up feeling like our emotions and expressing our emotions was a good and healthy thing to do. It was more like something that had gone wrong, or even disobedience, or now we call it dysregulation, and it's not dysregulation. It's dysregulation is going around being tense, really crazy tense, taking it out on your loved ones, and just accumulating more until we get really exhausted or really sick, or mentally unwell. That is what dysregulation is. What my son experienced was the ultimate regulation, but that's not widely known, and so it can be so scary and intense to actually feel our own emotions, to feel our fear, to feel our sadness, to feel our anger, even to feel our joy. Can feel really, really scary. Feeling your feelings and being able to be in touch with that compass is really the most amazing self-care you can ever learn in your life. But we start with baby steps. And so we can start our shake with these muscles here. Slowly move it up the body. See how I'm getting my breath activated and some sound. And if you shake as hard as you can for 1 minute, just pop yourself a 1 minute timer, your system will feel much, much different afterwards. It's a really, really good thing to experiment with. The other one that can be really, really helpful, that just training the body to pulsate between that tension and then the release, is you can go in and for 10 seconds you tighten every muscle in your body and get as tight and as small and stuff as you can, and then after 10 seconds and you get as big and loose as you can. And if you do that 5 times, it also gives you that retention and release. This is the more yang version of progressive muscle relaxation. And it starts to train your body that if it goes tense, then you can relax afterwards as well, once the source of stress has passed. And if you are someone who is has grown up with a lot of people pleasing, a lot of being really in tune with other people's needs and really finding it hard to be in tune with your own, then one of the most powerful exercises you can do, very vulnerable, very powerful, is to claim your no. So again, it's just 30 seconds, a minute, as long as you can do, while staying in your body, with your sensations, with yourself. It's really helpful if you get your muscles, your legs and hips involved. So stand and go, no, 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 no. And often, as you get into that, some really big emotions can come up. So when that happens, be there for yourself like you would your child. Don't go, oh gosh, okay, that's something bad's happening. I gotta shut it all down and shove it all back in again. See if you can actually soften into it and meet yourself with so much compassion, like, oh my gosh, that might have been sitting there for 30 years. And isn't it amazing that now I don't have to hold on to that anymore? I can meet myself there. So those are some ways of starting to really get this tension out of our body that is behind the overstimulation, that physical feeling. And then the other layer I talked about is about, like, realizing what the story is. What is the judgment that we're making actually of what's going on? Like, how are we judging it bad? And is that absolutely true? Or is there something beautiful that we can welcome actually about what's going on? Because we know we can go to noisy environments like a concert or a restaurant or something like that and have the best time because we've chosen it. But so much of what motherhood kind of like comes into, it's like, oh, we feel like we haven't chosen it, but we did. And we love these kids. And if we can love their aliveness, and the more that we can embrace our own aliveness through exercises like this and through our play with them, the more, the less their aliveness will be a problem. It will feel like something that we've chosen, something that we're really honored to be part of, and for them to share with us, and for them to invite us into sharing our aliveness with them too. And that's when the game starts to change. And the other deeper level that I spoke about in this event description is about how overstimulation, we can go through all these tactics. We can work it on the body level, we can work it on the mind or the kind of story level. But there's another level as well, which is the action level. And this is understanding that, if you remember, I talked about how there's overstimulation happens where there's this unresolved tension between our environment and what we need. And often as kids, we were taught to not pay attention to that. We were taught to go into override. Whether that was through being forced to eat foods that we didn't want to eat, or stay still when our body needed to move, to be quiet when we needed to express something. All of these things start to, in our subconscious as children, when our sense of self is really developing, and belonging is so important because our lives, our survival relies on the goodwill of these people around us. We start to associate override with being good, with belonging, and we stop listening to our body and stop trusting our body, which is all well and good until we start getting sick. And when my health and my energy has transformed, not through diet, not through exercise, not through following any rules, other than starting to just listen to what my body has to say about what she needs, and unblocking my energy. That has resulted in huge weight loss, huge increase in my energy, my capacity, my enjoyment of life, is really just through coming out of override. And override is really a combination of two things. It's that we can do it in moments, and that's fine. It's like my son, he kind of braced his way through that day of school, but then he got back in touch with him and his real needs, and we talked about it and stuff afterwards. It's when the override and that tension embracing and that becomes chronic. Like, we don't have moments where we actually do come out of it and we get back in touch with ourselves, that that things start to get really problematic, and we start to lose our energy, we start to lose our enthusiasm, we start to lose our well-being. And it's really common in our culture, and nowhere is it more exacerbated than in motherhood, because there's so much pressure to respond to like every need that your child has, and we're taught to do that, but we are not taught to do the same for ourselves and give ourselves the same kind of attention. And we're also taught that somehow like a child's needs are more important than ours, and that if you're attending to yourself, it's almost like you're taking something from your child. Thankfully, the neuroscience says the opposite. It says that what a child most needs, especially in the early years, is a caregiver that is well grounded and resourced, and that is an amazing imprint and map for them to follow. So that gives you the ultimate permission slip to actually be an attendant to yourself, because you'll be teaching your child how to do that too, how to not live in override and how to maintain their health long term. And you'll also be a much lovelier, more present, more joyful person to them and with them. So the process of coming out of override is, one, about taking those moments throughout the day to just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm getting some tension here, let me move that tension. But on a deeper level, looking at your life or your days and be like, what do I need? Do I need to move, or do I need to rest? Really simple things like when you need to pee, peeing at the earliest possible moment, then, rather than putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Eating when you need to eat. When you're hungry. If you don't ever feel hungry, that's like a good sign that your hunger signal has maybe been turned off. And this work is going to be really, really important for you. But to just come back to your sensation and start to pay attention to those sensations, whether it's tension or it's numbness or it's emotions. We're going to be doing a really, really good class tomorrow on anger and how to meet that signal. What is that signal that we get in our bodies? What does it mean? And how do we meet it in a way that actually improves our life? So that's going to be healthy anger for healthy mamas tomorrow. But yeah, coming back into our bodies, out of override, ensuring that our needs are on equal plane with everyone else's in our families, and starting to notice when those habits that we have of going into override, of putting off what our body is telling us we need, because our body, its job is to try and stay alive for as long as it can, in as healthy a way as it can. That is what it is trying to do. And it will start off just like a toddler, how toddlers, they will start off with a mum, like just pulling our shirt or something like that. But if we don't pay attention to them, eventually it's going to escalate into a full-on meltdown and tantrum. And so the more that we can listen to our bodily signals before they have to get loud at us, the less energy it needs to spend on those things, and it just doesn't have to get into that level of distress, because you're listening and you're attending. I'm going to take a little pause and look back through my notes here and see if there's anything else I really wanted to share with you today. Mm. So yes, to recap, the kind of 3 layers of needing overstimulation in your life. The first one is that really like embodied layer of understanding that this is tension that we've accumulated in our body, and if we start to unwind or shake off that tension, that embodied stress, then a lot of those feelings of overstimulation are going to go away, and you're going to be replaced with a lot more energy and spacious presence. The second layer is looking at is the mind layer. So looking at what are those things that are our triggers or our irritants in our environment, and what are the thoughts or the stories that we're having about them, and are they absolutely true, or can there be a little bit more space around them to be interpreted in a way that actually brings us pleasure and that we can relax into and welcome, because it's that piece around judgment and resistance that saps our energy and saps up our nervous system capacity. And then the third layer is really about attending to our needs, coming out of override as a lifestyle, keeping it there for moments where it really is an emergency, but realizing that your system has likely been programmed on override being the safest place to exist, and it probably was when you were a child, and it's different now. The world is in a different place. You are a grown up. You are there to role model for a child, and being in tune with and prioritizing your own needs and meeting your own needs is absolutely one of the best things you can do for your family, because no amount of technique, whether it's through your body or your mind, will ever overcome self-neglect. So I hope this has been very helpful. I would love to hear how it lands for you, and I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Healthy Anger, Healthy Mamas.